So it sounds like all of you have taken ARE 4.0. Certainly many of you listening in will, have to have a showdown with the vignettes. There's a question about the software, learning the software, figuring out how to, navigate all the rules and regulations and data points you have to kind of consider. Stephanie, maybe I'll start with you here. How did you handle, what was your approach to managing all that information and making sure you kind of got it right? And how did you also handle the sort of the software?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing for vignettes is just practice, practice, practice. The software itself is, outdated in its own way. And so just, the fact that when you move your mouse, it's not necessarily going to follow at the same speed, so you're not drawing what you always think you are. So if you can sort of learn the glitches of the system, that's number one. And then I would say it's on top of the practice, it's good to watch the videos that NCARB puts out, and they help explain, what is a fatal error versus what small errors can you add up and you'll still pass the vignette. So really understanding what NCARB is looking for. That way, when you start to go through, if you're running low on time, it's like, oh, if I don't put this light in or this return air vent in, I'm still going to be okay as long as I finish everything else on time. Or if it's like, I have got to focus on this, I have 5 minutes left, and I know if I don't finish a certain aspect, I'm not going to pass the vignette. So knowing where you stand based on the information that NCARB is providing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Jason, how about you?
So when I took the exams, I failed 3 of them, and those 3 were all due to the vignettes. So the vignettes were my worst enemy, so to speak. Mm-hmm. One suggestion I would say is take your time. You got to breathe and just take your time. I always made a checklist of 10 or 15 items that were the key points in each NCARB tutorial for the vignettes, whether it was the stairs or the roof plan or whatever, making sure the roof drains were in. Things like that, just like key, a handful or so of key components that I needed to make sure, like Stephanie said, that were in, that weren't fatal errors. And that really helped guide me through the process.
Okay. Anne, how about you?
I'm in the same boat as Jason with this. I failed 3 exams and they were all because of the vignette. And I still, till I passed my last exam in April, the vignettes where I never felt good about. I never learned how to learn the program. It really was just holding my breath and hoping I did it okay. For me, it was over analyzing, and the fact that the program is I looked it up at some point, and the program was designed in 1994. Just a fun little factoid for everybody out there. But my level of detail and what we're all used to using in the real world is not at all applicable to this software. And that was a really hard shift for my brain to make, and one that ultimately I got better at it just because of practice, but the vignettes were still the thing that made me sweat, literally sweat in the test center. And yeah, for me, it was just, I overanalyzed, and I couldn't make my brain undo the level of perfection that is available to us today.
All right, so remember, it's not the real world, and make sure you bring a sweatband. Is that?
Yeah, exactly.
Those are my ideas here. All right, good. Hey, Ivan, what about you?
Yeah, I'm on the complete opposite end of the spectrum here. I mean, I did fail 1 exam, and it was because of the vignette, and I can explain what that was. That was basically performance anxiety. I got to the end, and it was exam number 7, and I was like, oh my God, 1 hour left, and I'm going to be licensed. And I choked. But for me, the vignettes, I'm going to sound bad here, but I think they're designed for you to pass them. Like, it takes away, you don't have to know any technology, you don't have to know anything special, and they give you all the instructions. So if you just, like, reading comprehension, read the instructions and be super anal about what they asked you for, and just write down like a checklist of what they asked you for, you can probably finish all the vignettes in probably half the time that they ask you to do it in. and then spend the rest of the time basically going through like an auditor or an accountant would, and check every line of the instructions against what you've drawn. Like, don't freak out. Don't try to start. Never try to start over, right? And like, it's not the real world. Don't try to design. So, for example, like in schematic design, don't try to design it. Just follow the rules. Likewise, in structures, you have like your rules of thumb for like all your spans and everything. Just follow the rules, and it's also about ritual. So I think Stephanie mentioned like practicing. Download the software and practice. You're not solving the vignette. You're practicing a set of steps that you're going to execute, because the question is going to change on the exam. But what you're really trying to get into is the ritual of, okay, I'm going to draw my beams first, and then I'm going to draw my columns to make sure the beams go down, and then I'm going to draw the joists on top of that, and then I'm going to draw the decking, and then I'm going to follow the instructions and make sure I haven't put any columns in any rooms that say they shouldn't have columns in them. But it's a ritual. So by the time you're sitting there and you have an hour to do it, your body and your mind are so like in tune with what you need to do to pass the exam. It's second nature.
And Ivan, I'd like to add on to how you said you really are just following the instructions. A huge part of that is it's not going to look pretty. It's not meant to look pretty, and no one else is going to see what you put together, because if you try to think about it in the design mindset of like, oh, this tree should never go here, why would I put these rooms in this configuration?
That's
you really have to overcome that designer mindset and just follow those instructions.
Yeah, I think that's all really good advice. Ugly design is okay, which of course probably makes lots of us uncomfortable. But I like that read the instructions, make a checklist, be like an accountant, be 100% sure you check them all. I think I'm remembering that's kind of how I was thinking about it too. And that idea, it's interesting, create a ritual, create a process for yourself, so that you kind of know what you're going to do. I think that's awesome. And then of course practice the software. It's now been said many times. So for those of you who don't or aren't aware, as we've said a couple of times now, NCARB offers practice software that you can gain access to through your NCARB account, and it offers basically one practice problem for each of the vignettes. Does that square with everything you guys know? It's just one for each one practice problem for each one, right?
That's right. There are some forums that'll let you download extra stuff. You kind of have to know your way around to like put the files in the right spot so that your computer will read it. Like that's if you download it. NCARB also has like an online version through VPN to some computers that they have somewhere, some sort of server.
Okay, cool. Does anyone have anything else to say on the vignettes? I think this is a good one. And I know many of you guys are talking in our question box here, are asking about ARE 5.0. Obviously, this one is specific to 4.0, but as we move along here, these other issues are going to be specific to other parts of the exam. So we promise we won't just be focused on 4.0 stuff here.